guys, welcome back to another episode of the Web3 Quick Bites, the podcast where we jam to the latest beats in the decentralized world and chat with some brilliant minds in the industry. I'm your host, Olavisi, and today we are venturing into dangerous territory. You're probably thinking, what dangerous territory is she talking about? What is she even saying? Well, today we are going to talk about DAOs, what you guys know as decentralized autonomous organizations. So you see, DAOs are the future of human coordination. If you believe the Twitter threads, a revolution in governance, the death of traditional companies. But what if I told you that behind the utopian promises and the glossy medium posts, there's a much messier reality? A reality where voter apathy runs rampant, where decisions take weeks instead of hours, and where many DAOs are neither truly decentralized nor particularly organized. But on today's episode, together, we are diving into the dark side of DAOs, the part that no one's eager to post about on social media. We'll look at spectacular failures, examine the success stories, and most importantly, figure out when a DAO actually makes sense and when it's just decentralization TFL. Let's start with what we were promised. You see, DAOs were supposed to be the Web3 answer to traditional companies, flat organizations where token holders vote on everything from treasury allocation to product roadmaps. Democracy on the blockchain, no CEOs, no middle management, just, pure collective decision making. It all sounds amazing, right? But here's the cold hard truth that your influencers, your key opinion leaders won't tell you. But I am going to let you in on all of this. So what you should know is that most DAOs, they are drowning in governance overhead while accomplishing very little. Let me say that again. Many DAOs spend more time voting on proposals than actually shipping products. So recently I spoke with a developer, let's call him Mike, who joined a prominent DeFi DAO last year. And according to Mike, he came in excited to build. You really want to show you really want to make an impact, you really want to show what you're made of, your skills and all of that. So Mike came in excited to build, but 6 months later, all they had done was just vote on 16 different proposals about their voting system. The meta governance was endless. Meanwhile, their competitors, who had traditional company structures, they had shipped three major products. What do we make of that? So, what I want us to do now is break down the three biggest problems plaguing DAOs today. Problem one: decision fatigue and low participation. Here is a shocking statistic. In most DAOs, less than 10% of token holders actually vote on proposals. That's right. The decentralized part often means decided by a tiny, highly engaged minority. In quotes. Why is this, you ask? Because who has time to research and vote on every single decision? Normal people like you and I, we have jobs, we have families, and we have our own lives. So think about it. Do you really want to sit down and read a 20-page proposal about adjusting the parameters of a liquidity pool? Uh, I don't think so. But that is what DAO participation often requires. A governance researcher I interviewed sometimes last week also, she put it perfectly. In her words, she said, We've created systems that demand unrealistic levels of engagement from participants. It's like expecting every citizen to vote on every bill in Congress while also understanding all the nuances of each issue. It's just not sustainable. And I completely agree with her. It's just not sustainable. It's time training is exhausting. And that is the number one problem, yeah. Which brings us to the second problem, the drama factor. If you thought office politics was bad, haha, wait until you experience DAO politics. When millions of dollars are at stake and governance happens in public Discord channels, we both know drama isn't just common, it's inevitable, right? Because a perfect case study is the Constitution DAO. The Constitution DAO. Does anyone remember them? Because they raised over $40 million to buy a copy of the US Constitution at auction in 2021. And when they lost the auction, the process of returning funds turned into a complete mess. I mean, chaos, real chaos. Discord channels erupted into chaos. Some members wanted to keep the money for future opportunities. Others demanded immediate refunds. Gas fees ate up smaller contributions. What initially started as an inspiring collective effort, it ended with what? It ended with frustration and people's what's the word I'm looking for now? People were finger pointing and sharing blames. See, that is the second problem, which the drama factor, which now brings us to the third problem, the execution gap. Here is perhaps the biggest issue because many DAOs they are great at discussing and terrible at executing. In traditional companies, there's clear accountability, right? Someone's job is on the line if things don't get done. Someone is getting fired if anything terrible happens to the company. But in many DAOs, when a proposal passes, there's often no clear ownership of who is responsible for implementation. I also spoke with a DAO consultant even way before I thought of making an episode on this topic. I spoke with a DAO consultant early this year. He didn't mince words at all. And in his words as well, he said, I've seen DAOs approve budgets of hundreds of thousands of dollars for projects that never materialized. There was no follow up, no accountability, just money allocated into the void. And then he ended it with its governance without execution. What do we make of that? I'll give you a second to think about it. But wait, before we write off DAOs entirely, I want us to look at the success stories because when done right, DAOs can be remarkably effective. So the first case study here that I'll be talking about is Nouns DAO. You see, Nouns DAO has a brilliantly simple model. One NFT is auctioned every day forever. Each NFT grants one vote in the DAO, and that proceeds go to the treasury. You ask, what makes nouns work? Three things. First, they have a clear scope. They are not trying to build a product, they are funding public goods and growing their brand. Second, sustainable treasury growth with daily auctions. And third, a small but highly engaged community where everyone knew each other. And the result of that was they funded everything from physical installations at SXSW to open source software development with minimal drama and real world impact. Isn't that amazing? So this is a good example of when DAOs are being done right and people agree together and there's no distrust, there's no discord among them. DAOs are actually amazing. They are really, really amazing. So let's move on to the second case study, which is what happened to Friends with Benefits. Friends with Benefits, it launched as the ultimate crypto social club, a token gated community of artists, creators, and crypto lovers. With a tag of FWB with a cash tag of FWB token worth over $150 at its peak. It was touted as the future of social organizations. But today, the token trades, I think, below $3 or even way below, and activity has plummeted. No, so the question now is, what went wrong? I know that's a question you're probably asking yourself. What went wrong? I'll tell you what went wrong. First, they expanded too quickly, diluting the core value proposition. You see, the original tight knit community became fragmented as they scaled to thousands of members. And when the token value crashed, many members lost interest, revealing that financial speculation, not community value, was driving participation for many. Do you now see the contrasting case studies? The first one I said about Nouns DAO, see how they were successful and they are still functioning up to today. While the second case study friends with benefit, look at what happened to them. So do you now see the construct? Do you now see the difference between both? What can happen you don't if you dilute your core value proposition? What happens? Everything goes boom. Now, let's talk about when DAOs make sense and when they absolutely do not. The question now is, so when should you actually use a DAO structure? Because you've been listening up to this stage and like Olabisi has just been talking about the dark side of DAOs. Well, I did warn you that that is what we're going to talk about, the dark side of DAOs, even though they appear all strawberry and vanilla on the outside. It's just a facade. A lot is going on behind scenes. And then so now you're asking yourself, so when should you actually use a DAO structure? Based on all the evidence and the examples and case studies I've shared earlier, here is Olabisi's framework, my own personal framework. See, DAOs make sense when you need credible neutrality. I'm talking governing a protocol that multiple competing parties are relying on. Second will be community ownership genuinely adds value to your product. And third, it does make sense when you have a clear focused mission that doesn't require rapid decision making. And fourth, DAOs make sense when you can attract contributors who are intrinsically motivated by your mission. Now, I've already explained how when DAO makes sense, right? So now let's talk about why when they don't make any sense. DAOs probably don't make sense when one, you're building a complex product requiring tight coordination. Two, doesn't make sense when you need to make good decisions in competitive markets. Three, it doesn't make sense when your primary goal is maximizing financial returns. And four, it doesn't make sense when you don't have a pre-existing engaged community. Everybody knows community is the lifeblood of Web3. So how can you call yourself a DAO and then you don't have a pre-existing engaged communities? Oh yeah, oh well, I have a community, but they're not engaging. Hello. Then that is bound to fail before it even takes off. Oh, oh my. In other words, not everything needs to be a DAO just because we are in Web3. I know, yeah, Web3 people, we like those flashy, shiny things, and then we just slap big names on something. But then, not everything needs to be a DAO because we are in Web3. See, I I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple of people in this industry, people that have been in this industry way before I even dreamt of joining or making the transition to Web3. And I was opportune to ask one of them uh yesterday actually. I was opportune to talk to someone yesterday and it was we connected via LinkedIn and then we had a conversation and then the whole DAO topic came up and then he told me his story. He said in his words, he said we started as a full DAO and nearly died from decision paralysis. Now, he has a core team which is making day to day decisions with the DAO voting on major directional changes. It's not perfectly decentralized, but they actually ship products now. I mean, that must have been a relief for him that finally we can now ship products because now there's a structure in place that is helping them move faster. which also applies to anybody who is currently part of the governing body of a DAO or you are considering joining one. You need to know that if your structure is not put in place, it's bound to fall, it's bound to crash, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, if you are already in a DAO or thinking about starting one, I'll give you my practical takeaways. So, first is, why don't you just start with a small core team and expand governance gradually? Decentralization is a spectrum and it's not a binary choice. Nothing is cast in stone. I want you to remember that. Then, second is, like I said before, create a structure, have a structure, which is create clear work streams with dedicated leaders, people that you know they can lead effectively. Create this with them and then execute without constant votes. Right? When your structure is put in place, people who can actually make the decision and who have the authority, they can push things forward without having to vote every single day. Then the third is use your delegation effectively. Not everyone needs to vote on everything. Yeah, trusted community members can represent others. If we're about 1,000 in a DAO, for example, not 1,000 of us asked to vote, we can assign someone as a community lead to vote on our behalf. So simple as that, saves you the stress, saves you time, move things forward faster. Then the fourth one will be have a clear off ramp plan for when things are not working. Things will not always work, especially in that all the time. So it's always best that you have a plan because this might be the most, I think this is the most important and least discussed aspect of DAOs. Maybe this is going to be an episode on its own. But moving on, the last one is be honest about your structure. I think this is the third time I'm talking about structure. Because if you have a core team making most decisions, you don't call yourself fully decentralized. I mean, it's totally fine and it's certainly okay to be a progressive DAO that's working toward decentralization over time. Don't feel pressured to just slap decentralization on what you're doing. Take your time to build and shape, right? And it's okay that you are still a work in progress and your DAO is still progressive. It is fine. See, I know I've been talking a lot about the dark side of DAOs, but I am not yet to tell you that DAOs are a failed experiment. They are not at all. But my opinion, they are a work in progress. And let's call it an ambitious attempt to imagine how humans coordinate at scale. And the biggest problem is not with the DAO concept itself, right? But it's with the gap between marketing and reality. And the sooner we are honest about the challenges of decentralized governance, the sooner we can build systems that actually work. So, dear listeners, the next time someone tells you that DAOs are going to replace every company on earth, uh, maybe ask them how many DAO votes they participated in recently. The answer might be telling. That's all the answer you need. So, until next time, guys, this is Olavisi from Web3 Quick Bites and reminding you that the future might be decentralized, but it's definitely complicated. Thanks for listening and see you on the next episode.